All right, welcome everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order and we will, did you want to say anything, Lisa, before we get going or wait till the, okay, great. All right, so good morning and welcome to Metro Plan Orlando MAC meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. My name is John Dallas and I'll be chairing the meeting today. We also have a team of folks working to ensure this meeting runs smoothly for us in the room and those listening online. As we continue to meet in person, all committee members are required to be physically present here in the Metro Plan Orlando boardroom for purpose of achieving a quorum. Staff will continue to stream our meetings online for public access. And I've asked Commissioner Ramos if he will actually open us in a brief invocation and pledge of allegiance. Everyone stand. This morning, I ask everyone to silence your phones and your smart devices. I do ask that all the committee members wait to be recognized to speak and to activate your microphones before speaking and turning them back off when you are complete. As a reminder, the microphone is turned on and off by pressing the blue button, the one with the little talking face icon located on the screen in front of you. There are 2 public comment points in the meeting. Members of the public participating virtually who want to speak will use the raise hands feature on the Zoom screen. If attending by phone, you can hit *9 to request to be recognized. We also accepted comments by email and phone messages before the meeting. The guidelines for the public comment are posted at metroplan.org/virtual meetings. We want this and all future meetings to be accessible to all. Participants may join by computer, tablet, or phone. If you need accommodations to participate in the future, please contact Metro Plan Orlando. And with that, Ms. Larson, please bring us in the proper posture.
Good morning, everyone. I've got just 2 brief comments today. First off, we have Will Hawthorne from CFX, and he's in the audience today. He's our liaison. So if you have any questions regarding CFX, you can direct them to him. He doesn't have any reports for us today, but just be aware that he is in the audience and he'll be joining us. And also, COMPTO, the Conference on Minority Transportation Officials, has kicked off their annual Careers in Transportation for Youth internship program, which provides undergraduate and graduate minority students with the opportunity to gain professional and practical experience in the transportation industry. They are looking for agencies to host transportation interns. So if you are thinking about bringing on an intern, this program might save you some time in the selection process. There is more information about the program in the general information section of your agenda packets. And we have no changes to the printed agenda, so I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Mike Wilson for the safety moment.
Thank you, Sarah, and good morning, everyone. March is Florida Bicycle Month. It being Florida, we do things differently here. The rest of the country does May. We figure let's do it while it's still a little cooler here for Bike Month. So looking at safety for cyclists, looking at our on average, we have about 728 reported crashes per year for our metropolitan area. This past year, 23, we're up significantly on that, over 800. About 67 serious injury crashes on average per year. And what's notable is that in addition to that, there are another roughly 115 bicyclist hospital admissions per year that do not involve a motor vehicle. So serious enough injuries to really warrant an extended stay. And then in addition, about 14 bicyclist fatalities. Again, we're way up for 23 at 22 fatalities. And we also occasionally have fatalities that do not involve a motor vehicle, because anytime your head hits the pavement, there's that, and you don't have it protected by a helmet, there's a potential for serious injuries. So 2 key things that bicyclists can do to to reduce their crash risk, number one is to go with the flow. And what we've found with our crash and count data is that going against the flow of traffic, and that's irrespective of where you're on the roadway, bike lane, a sidewalk, or a side path, has 5 times greater risk than going with the flow of traffic. As you can see in this photograph, here's a driver pulling out from a driveway, looking to the left where all the motor vehicles are coming from. And this scenario is the number one type of crash that we see. It happens virtually every day in our metro area. That's how frequent it is. And while it tends not to be a real serious crash in general, because there are so many of them, it results in 30% of our killed or serious injury crashes. Not too many fatalities, but a lot of serious injuries. Compare that to overtaking crashes, where bicyclists hit from behind is only 10% of our KSIs. Yeah, this type of crash is 30% of our KSIs, yes. And so, you know, a crash like this happens about once every 2 weeks in our area, serious injury. And then the other key factor for cyclists is using lights at night. About a quarter of our bicyclist travel is happening at night, but 30% of our KSIs and 58% of our nighttime overtaking KSIs are at night. When we look at fatalities, over half of them are at night, and nearly 3/4 of the overtaking fatalities are at night. So basically, your risk of a KSI bicycle overtaking crash is 5 times higher at night than it is during the daytime. This photograph is to illustrate, there's no bicyclist hidden in this photograph, but it just illustrates how many other competing lights, even without the cars on the road, you have. So the brighter the light that you have, the more effective you can be at being seen. So that concludes my safety moment, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you very much. That bicycle going on the wrong direction on the sidewalk, I've been in one, same thing happened. You're right. All right, now we have the roll call, and I think we have some people who arrived, so this is great.
Good morning. I'll ask all committee members to keep your microphones muted until called. Please say here or present. Anderson? David? Dowless?
Here.
Firstner? Foraker? Presley for Gardner?
Here.
Guthrie?
Here.
Henson?
Online.
McCann?
Here.
Ramos?
Present.
Boney for Sackett?
Here.
Slated?
Here.
Commissioner Jordan Smith.
Here.
Mr. Chair, that concludes the roll call, and we do have a quorum physically present.
Thank you very much. Would you like to announce those who have asked for an excused absence, or do we want to wait till the consent?
Mayor Henson is online and Mayor Boney is here. He made it in representing Commissioner Sackett from the city of Longwood.
So we're good?
Mayor Foraker needs to be excused.
Okay. Mayor Foraker has asked for an excuse. Is there a motion to excuse?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a second. Did you get that, Lisa? Yeah, Guthrie made the motion and Smith second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, please show that adopted. All right, now on to public comments. We will now hear public comments on action items. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record, and please hold public comments to 2 minutes or less. If any members of the public wish to comment and are joining us virtually, please use the raise hand function and you will be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad will send you a prompt to unmute your mic. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
Mr. Chairman, we have no hands raised online.
Very good. Do we have any members of the public attending in person that wish to make a public comment?
We have not received any.
All right. And are there any written statements or comments that need to be read for the record?
There are none.
All right, excellent. Moving right along. And now we're going to our agency reports, partner updates, and we will start with Ms. Beckman.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. It is my pleasure to be presenting to you the FDOT agency report for the month of February. First off, I want to draw your attention to tab 4. You will notice an updated FDOT monthly construction report. We have included maps as well as hyperlinks so that you can go directly to the CFL Roads website for ease of use. If you have any additional feedback on the report, please let me know. We are wanting to make this a valuable tool for our partners. So recently completed projects to celebrate in Orange County, the safety project on State Route 50, West Colonial Drive and Moreland Drive was completed. It included upgrades to the traffic and pedestrian signals, as well as a raised concrete traffic separator, the improvement project on State Route 435 Kirkman Road from north of Vineland Road to north of Wendover Drive has also reached final acceptance. Some of you may have noticed the westbound I-4 off-ramp at John Young to McLeod was completed in late January, and the project aimed to alleviate congestion and merging issues on John Young just north of I-4. In Osceola County, we had multiple bridge rehabilitation project along US 192, US 441, and it has concluded. A few lane closures for you very briefly today. In Orange County from February 23rd, continuing through March 15th, there's intermittent west and eastbound daily single right lane closures from Hewley Avenue to Paramore Avenue for concrete pouring. And then in Osceola County until April 16th, westbound outside left turn lane closure at the intersection of North Orange OBT and East Osceola Parkway for utility work. In Seminole, continuing until March 17th, there will be single intermittent overnight lane closures in both directions of State Route 426, County Road 419 from Pine Avenue, Chippendale Terrace to Adeline B. Tinsley Way, and then also we have intermittent nightly ramp closures on westbound I-4 at Osceola, eastbound State Route 408 to Orange Avenue. There will also be the sidewalk closures on both eastbound and westbound Sand Lake Road from Turkey Lake Drive to I Drive. I bring that one up in particular because there is going to be intermittent nightly lane closures as well on that stretch eastbound, westbound Sand Lake Road from Turkey Lake to I Drive, particularly starting tomorrow. I want to draw attention to this. Starting tomorrow and the 9th, they're starting work on converting into our phase 1 of the diverging diamond intersection at Sand Lake Road. So there is going to be new traffic patterns and whatnot. In fact, for an upcoming event tonight, this evening at the Rosin Center at 11184 Apopka Vineland Road from 5 to 7 p.m. We will be there for a public open house to discuss that new interchange and the updates at Sand Lake and Darrell Carter. And that is all I have for today. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Ms. Beckman?
Just got a quick one over here. I appreciate you noting that it's Adeline B. Tinsley Way. In tab 4, it was listed as its old name. And if there's a way to change that everywhere, there's a reason we changed the name.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you so
I
much.
will look into that. Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
I just think you're gonna have a very interesting meeting tonight. I saw it on the news last night too, so yes, you're gonna have a very interesting night.
Yes, sir. It's a new thing. It's worked well for us at Champions Gate, but I think it will be an improvement, and so it will be interesting. But it is going to take some education and some time.
Listen, I just drove out there the other night, South Park. So yeah, it needs it. I mean, you can go there almost any time of night, and it's traffic.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And by the way, if you have any issues with DOT there, I dealt with Ms. Beckman. I mean, they're very responsive. So thank you very much. And this is the place you need to have a little interaction there. All right. Next is Links, Ms. Whitten.
Good morning. Just a few brief updates from Links. Our ridership is remaining around 60,000 average daily riders. That's about 8% increase from this time last year and around 75% recovery from pre-COVID level ridership. We did resume our Swan shuttle service this Tuesday, March 5th. That's our autonomous shuttle that's operating on a portion of the limo service downtown for 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the evening. It was voluntarily suspended back in November after an incident between the vehicle and a bus. So that is back up and running, and it will be going, I think, for the next 4 months. So we have a full 6 months of revenue service to evaluate lessons learned and challenges from that operating that type of vehicle in an urban environment. And lastly, we'll be implementing our next round of service changes on April 21st. And most of those are frequency changes or operational improvements for efficiencies. There will be a new Route 311 that will operate from the airport to Disney Springs Transfer Center, and going also to Destination Parkway Superstop, International Drive Convention Center, and Florida Mall Superstop, and Sand Lake Sunrail Station. And therefore, the link 111 will be discontinued because it currently operates a portion of that, and this is an express route that will cover that portion, and then there's other existing routes that will cover the 111 route. And so, unless there's any questions, that concludes my update.
This would,
And even though I noticed that they're airing bus stop areas, are they paying them that just like you're taking out the benches, are the benches coming back or you know,
That I don't know the answer to, but I can definitely look into it and get back with you. So they've removed the bus benches at the.
Bus stop sections for, and I seen them prepared.
Oh, okay. Okay, I will find out about that and get back to you.
what did you say? Your ridership is 60,000 daily, and what was the high before COVID?
75, it was around 75,000
Okay,
per day, so
got it. I was just curious. All right, thanks so much.
that's
All right.
like fiscal year 19.
Mr. Fine with Florida Turnpike, welcome.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Siasi Fine, and I'm with the Florida's Turnpike Enterprise. Today, I have two construction project updates on our Turnpike main line. So the first project is the resurfacing on the Florida's Turnpike main line from milepost 198 to milepost 207. That's right above State Road 60 in the southern part of Osceola County. So that project, construction will continue through mid-2024. As we get closer, the dates will be more clear. It won't just be vague like mid-2024. Right now, you can expect overnight single lane closures. And the second project is the Turnpike Mainline AET, or all electronic tolling conversion from the Lantana Toll Plaza to the Three Lakes Toll Plaza. This project includes the installation of electronic tolling gantries on the main line, removal of existing toll plazas on the main line, and interchange ramps. Several new dynamic messaging signs will also be installed throughout the corridor. And this project will also be in construction through mid-2024. But with this project, there are no expected lane closures at this time. But with that being said, that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Fine. Any questions?
I got a question. It's not my brain. So where are we? I mean, we didn't last year had talked about Orange County, I believe, or looking at expanding the toll express lanes from Sand Lake towards Tampa Moore and vice versa the other way. Or is there any update on those anywhere?
The DOT.
With that DOT? Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah, the express lanes that are on I-4 are currently, the southern portion are part of the Moving Florida Forward initiative that the governor, excuse me, put forth last year. And they are hoping to, I believe construction on the northern part of that is supposed to start, they're hoping in 2025, but it is a 10-year project. And that is the update as to the southern. The northern is still just there at this point without specifically programmed time.
Okay, Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay, now we go to the action items. First is our approval of the minutes. Are there any changes that need to be made? Is there a motion to approve? Mayor Sladak, second. Commissioner Ramos, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, please show that adopted. All right, next we have the FDOT amendment. Mr. Sartorio, welcome.
Morning, Chairman and committee members. My name is Jason Sartorio. This morning I have one tip amendment for you, and additional information on this amendment is located in tab 2 of your agendas. Today's amendment is for a resurfacing project on State Road 535 from north of US 192 to south of International Drive. The amendment will increase construction funding in fiscal year 2024 due to scope changes and cost increases for materials. And as I mentioned earlier, you have some additional information regarding this amendment located in tab 2 of your agendas. With that being said, unless there are any questions, we're asking for your vote of approval of the amendment. Thank you.
Any questions? All right, do we have a motion to approve? Motion. Mayor McCann, we have a second? Second, Mayor Sladak? Do we need roll call vote? Sorry, do we need a roll call vote or do we need okay, yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, please show that adopted. Sorry, got a little mixed up on that one. Okay, and let's see. Next, we have in tab 3, the UPWP for submittal, Mr. Trauger. Welcome.
So this is a follow-up item, as you may recall from your meeting last cycle. But today we are requesting your approval of the draft for submittal, and I'll get into what that means here in just a minute. But again, we are asking for your action today on our Unified Planning Work Program, which is our internal operating budget for staff and consultant services. A little bit of background here. Again, it is a 2-year budget. It's going to start July 1 of this year and go through June of 2026, looking at that 2-year document. It includes, as I mentioned, kind of our planning activities, what you can expect as it relates to core business, but also as it relates to the consultant services and kind of value-added supplemental planning that we conduct throughout the region. And that third bullet is most important for us to expend and utilize federal highway planning funds. We have to have a UPWP submitted and approved by FDOT and the Federal Highway Administration. So again, about that draft for submittal, we're at an early step in our budgeting process where we have to submit the document really twice to Florida DOT. This first time here by March 15th is where we submit our draft with those preliminary numbers. DOT reviews it, sends it back to us, and then during your April meeting during your May meeting, we'll be coming back and asking for formal approval of the document, which will be responding to any feedback or updated revenues. But again, today we are asking for your preliminary approval of that document so we can advance it to the next steps. As I mentioned last month, the document hasn't changed from last year or the current document to this. In years past, you'd probably seen presentations about us streamlining the document, removing tasks and other subtasks, but the document remains intact as it relates to core products. I went over these in detail last month, but provided in the document, and I believe I apologize, this is in tab 3 of your printed agendas. There's a board action fact sheet, which will kind of link you out to the full document. But in Appendix H of that document, there's a full listing of these consultant services. It's a requirement, that a federal highway requirement for us to have. It identifies the preliminary core tasks, timeline, and estimated costs for those activities. We're completing a lot of work, as I mentioned last month. Work that we started this month is going to flow and continue to be funded and finalized in our next budget. But you're also going to be hearing a lot more about those other bullets, including later today about the 2050 Metropolitan Plan. That's our core product that really serves as the foundation for a lot of our work. So budget over the next 18 months is going to be focused in on satisfying federal and state requirements for that particular item. We're also continuing our annual retiming program, as well as the before and signal retiming, as well as the before and after. We'll be continuing our sidewalk feasibility work on those critical sidewalk gaps, as well as conducting some corridor feasibility studies. We'll also be purchasing data. You've heard about that. I know we've supported many of the local agencies with cut-through analysis, speed analysis. So we use that commercial travel data to get insights as it relates to the network and the behaviors and patterns that are flowing. And then you'll be hearing more about our 2024 public opinion survey, probably at your next meeting or the following. That's taking place here this fiscal year, but you're going to see that 2026 survey and budget for 2 years from now, because again, it is a 2-year document. We need to kind of look ahead at products going out that far. As we look at revenues, this slide hasn't changed from my presentation last month. Again, calling attention to the surge of federal funds that we received as part of the SS4A grant that is being implemented within your jurisdictions and region wide. So we did receive a $5 million discretionary grant, which you've heard a lot about. You'll be hearing from Mike a little later on in the agenda. So most of those funds are being expended within this fiscal year, but some funds are rolling over into fiscal 25 as we continue to finalize that grant agreement. But again, as we get into fiscal 25, fiscal 26, those revenues, those estimates that you see there are more consistent with our typical revenues based on the federal formula funds that we've received based on our urban area population. Also important to note, as part of our budget, we do pass funds through to links. About 5% of the funds that we receive, planning funds, are passed directly through links to support their strategic planning activities. We also transfer about $80,000 a year to support Links' administration of the Access Links program. That's paratransit service for our most vulnerable transportation disadvantaged population. And while it's not included in our budget, it is important to note that $7 million line item every year, consistent with the Metro Plan Orlando Board's policy. We transfer $7 million of our urban attributable capital funds that we receive to Links, and that supports their transit asset management program. So again, you won't see that line item in the budget, but as we're talking about pass-through funds to Links, we believe it's important to note and call attention to the level of investment and financial partnership that we have. So with that, again, we are asking for your approval of this draft document for submittal today. But it will be coming back later this year after we receive comments back from Federal Highway and DOT. So with that, I can answer any questions you have. But again, we are.
Questions for Mr. Trogger?
I got one. I just educate about transportation disadvantage, like who gets that? How does that operate?
I'll do my best, and then I might punt to Trish here. So transportation disadvantage, paratransit service. It's really a door-to-door service for those who are under Medicare, could be elderly, but there are qualification requirements for that. And then the service is operated by Links through a subcontractor, and you'll see those Access Links buses typically with a smaller vehicle, often with a ramp in the back, and they're taking people to medical appointments, dialysis, other essential service trips that are required. But Links is the community transportation coordinator. Metro Plan Orlando receives the funds, and we kind of operate and oversee the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board and the Quality Assurance Task Force, which is kind of oversight arms of the paratransit service, but Links is the operator in and of themselves. So I hope that helps, and Trish can certainly add to that.
That was impressive. It's only 80,000 for.
Oh, that's just for the administration of the program. Links is a direct recipient for the actual service, and then some of that's funded with Medicare, Medicaid, and then some other funds, state funds that go to that. But Trish, can you add to that, please?
The transportation disadvantage portion is under paratransit. We have the ADA portion and then the transportation disadvantage. So that's outside of the required 3/4 mile buffer that we have to provide for ADA. So transportation disadvantage would be age or income, then you're outside of that. So it's a door-to-door service, mostly for dialysis, like Alex mentioned. But yeah, that's the money for the administration of the program.
Thanks. Now I know.
Commissioner Ramos?
I got a question also for Patricia. I don't know if this would include, our town of Oakland has no access to the Lynx bus transportation. I think what they do right now, our residents are calling vans, or you guys have a van that you provide so they can take them to a point where they can pick them up in Winter Garden. Is that included in this? And are gonna have Lynx ever going to the town of Oakland eventually to have a stop? Because we used to have it years back.
I would have to check with our mobility services department on how that exactly works, but we can find out for you for sure.
Right now, they're not paying for it. They do call a van to take them, 2 miles into Winter Garden to be at a stop, bus stop. So is that provided through here?
I'll answer that more specifically. So those funds are not accounted for in our operating budget. The funds that you're referring to or the funds that the revenues that would support the service that you're describing would be included in Lynx operating budget directly. And they're direct recipients for those FTA basically public transit funds flow directly to them. Some of the planning and as I mentioned, administrative funds flow directly to us, and then we pass them through, but the actual service development funds go directly to Lynx. And we can follow up specifically on that service. It might be a neighbor link service, Trish.
That's
or,
what I was gonna say, if it's a van, or I can check into it and bring a report back to the next meeting of how exactly that operates, if it's a van or a neighbor link, I'm not really sure.
I would like to see you guys explore eventually bringing back the Lynx or a stop in Oakland, because now that we're, doubled or tripled our size in residents, they've been coming to our town or to our commission meetings asking, when are they gonna have a bus stop, a Lynx?
I will find out more and report back. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Any others? No, okay. We need a motion. Do we have a motion to recommend approval for fiscal year 2025? Commissioner Ramos, motion, and then second who? Mayor Bonnie? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, show that adopted. Better than the other way around, right? Okay, presentations and updates. We have 4 informational presentations today. Please hold question until the presentation ends if possible. And we have First Vision Zero update with Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning again. So diving into our update, let's talk about our public engagement efforts. I mentioned last time we have a map-based feedback page on our Central Florida Vision Zero centralflorida.gov website. And this is rather than just showing numbers, we're kind of diving down a little deeper and showing the breakdown of what types of problems and modes that are being showing concern for. And here's one example on the right-hand side over in the Horizon Lakes, or Horizon West area of a particular road where there's been speeding concerns, and even provided a photograph of a run off the road crash. So this is the type of qualitative data that we're looking for and hope to get more of. So encourage your residents to go to this page and give us their feedback, and it's very useful. On January 31st, FDOT had its Safety Strategic Plan workshop for MetroPlan. It was extremely well attended, had really good feedback from everyone. In fact, the afternoon session had more people than they planned for. FDOT has also done workshops in the other MPOs in the region, and now we'll be sort of taking everything they've heard and pulling it all together into a 5-year plan for the entire FDOT district. And we'll have ongoing discussions with them as to what that means for our Vision Zero and how we can collaborate to move the ball forward on safety. A number of other things we've added. You and all of your fellow elected officials would have received our elected officials guide a few weeks ago. And so, that intended just to show all of you what your role is and how you can be most effective at engaging not only your residents, but your staff, and advancing the Vision Zero principles. The children's book, which you should all have a copy of, hot off the press. This is available as PDF on the site, as well as we've printed quite a few, over 5,000 hard copies of it. Also now on the site, we've got more information on the high injury network with some fact sheets. And there's a new page on there of, really it's kind of a deep dive into the trends of our crashes by mode, and a plethora of factors that come into play when it comes to safety. We held our fourth task force meeting a couple weeks ago, the regional plan. Spent a lot of time talking about the benchmarking process by which we're going to identify what our current policies and practices are in regards to safety, and how do we bump them up to be consistent with the Vision Zero approach. So, looking at everything that we've got and where we want to take it to. We're also looking now at pairing countermeasures to the high injury network corridors. So there's the top 30 corridors that have been identified, as well as intersections in the region. And what are going to be the countermeasures, both physical and behavioral, that we need to move the needle on those corridors and reduce crashes. Here's an example of one of the high injury network fact sheets, where for each of the corridors, you see a map of where the crashes are occurring, a breakdown of by what modes and what types of crashes and severity, et cetera. The task force looked at prioritization. Here are the criteria that are being considered, and we're looking at how this applies not only within the safety plan itself, but then how more broadly do we bring that into the overall metropolitan planning process to advance safety in all of our projects. A little update on the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant process. We were hoping that we would be able to have our plans done in time to then provide, submit applications for implementation grants. In other words, to actually get things built. It's one of those rare circumstances where the federal government worked a little faster than we expected. And so the notice of funding opportunity was released on February 20th. We were expecting it to be a couple months later. And so the application deadline is May 16th, and we would have to have adopted plans by April 30th in order to make that happen. So we don't want to rush these plans and make them and not have them be what they should be. So unfortunately, we'll be missing those deadlines. There are still, however, opportunities for additional supplemental planning as well as demonstration grants. And so we're having discussions now as to what we'll pursue in that. And as you can see, we've got a number of deadlines there. So we have really until August to come up with our strategy for those. Next steps, the calendar that we've shown you before. So we're in that process of identifying the projects and strategies and updating the policies and practices, and still on target for adopting our plan in the spring, as well as all of your local plans that are also in progress as well. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
So I love the little coloring book. How do you see that being used? Do you see that going to schools? Do you see how, I mean, what's the whole thought of how you want to get this out and get children to use it?
Yeah. More for going to events. And we have our consultant teams who are going out to all of your community events to reach out to the public and tell them about the Vision Zero effort. And so this is a great product, to hand out to kids at those events, whether they're farmers markets or fairs or, whatever it is that reaching out. But we don't have enough copies, to get to all the school kids, through the schools. But again, the PDF is available, so if anyone wants to print their own and distribute, there's that opportunity.
And you said the PDF is on the FDOT website?
It's on the Vision Zero
Vision
CFL
Zero.
site, yes.
Thank you.
I want to commend you guys. You went out to our farmer's market in Oakland, the town of Oakland. It was a great success. Take over the trails, Vision Zero. So this would be a great, if I can get some more, this would be great for us to put it in the Arts and Heritage Center. Kids go there on weekends, have an ice cream. They have a lot of activities to do there, and having a stack of this continually. When we run out, ask for more so they can use it there. Would be a great tool to have there for the kids.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think our library has a strong after hours program for students, and I think it'd be a great location to have some of these there. I think this would fit into some of the scope that they're initiating at that particular library. And, you know, of course, I can put some in some other areas as we get access to them.
Looks like you got some orders, and since we're at it, Edgewood is actually 100 years old this year, and we're having a centennial celebration on March 23rd, a free concert. I can get you information if y'all like a table. We'd be glad to provide one.
Okay.
I'll get you information.
Yeah, and I'll connect you with the consultant on the,
Okay. Great. All right, anyone else? All right, thank you very much. We are now going to the regional transportation with Ms. Larson.
All right, you get to hear from me from the podium. So I'll be giving you a brief status update on the Transportation for All Overcoming Obstacles plan. And this is an expansion on our Title VI and Limited English Proficiency, or LEP plan. And when I say expansion, what I mean is we're using recent federal guidance to expand the plan. So in January 2022, USDOT released their Equity Action Plan. And they highlighted key actions that the USDOT is planning to take to help focus on underserved, overburdened, and disadvantaged communities. So a little bit about that disadvantage and how they define it is lack of mobility options. So that means no access to a vehicle, a personal vehicle, no access to smartphones or credit cards, so they aren't able to use programs like Uber or Lyft. And that buses maybe aren't frequent or direct enough in these areas. Also, infrastructure may not support safe or comfortable mobility, such as lacking sidewalks, and poor environmental air quality, poor health, and other social vulnerabilities, such as higher rates of physical disabilities or higher shares of rent burden. So we've been thinking about this topic. In our 2021 Public Opinion Research Survey, we asked our community, what does transportation equity mean to them? And so based off of around 3,000 responses, we created this definition, which is transportation that is available, accessible, affordable for everyone, no matter their background. So some key pieces of this Transportation for All plan. We're using that data that USDOT provided in their Equity Action Plan, and we're localizing it for the Central Florida community. And we're identifying these geographic areas of greatest need, and we're determining them as the transportation underserved communities. So we're taking it under our own naming convention. And then also we are creating a partner agency network. And what that is local nonprofits or other community programs that will give us access to maybe community members who don't come out to public meetings because, you know, they work the night shift and so they aren't able to attend, or, you know, for whatever other reason, maybe they aren't attending our public meetings. So getting their feedback on the process of transportation planning. And sorry, skip ahead. So these areas in the transportation underserved communities are the areas we've identified of greatest need. So that's to say that if you see something on the map that isn't highlighted, it doesn't mean we don't acknowledge that there are, problems or needs there, just that the areas that we've identified under this are of greatest need. And so how we define these areas is using the US DOT's Equitable Transportation Communities tool. So they've created their own map. And we've taken that federal guidance and taken it into our own. And then also what is called CJEST, or Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool. And that's also coming down from the federal government. And we're combining those two to create the transportation urban underserved communities. And the bonus of using the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tools, or CJEST, is that there's funding attached to that. So by identifying these communities, we can go out for grant funding if there are projects in that highlighted area. And there's over 40 indicators going into what determines whether an area is disadvantaged or not, and falls under the 5 components that I have listed here: transportation insecurity, environmental burden, social vulnerability, health vulnerability, and climate disaster risk burden. So the 40 indicators fall under one of those 5 categories. So the plan development timeline, right now we are here presenting to boards and committees. And then we'll be wrapping up the plan around the May timeline. And then we'll be coming back in the May-June timeframe to show you the finalized plan. And then also with public participation, we'll be activating, and we've actually already reached out to that stakeholder network. And we're planning on having a virtual event sometime in the April-May timeframe. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? All right, thank you so much. Let's see, now we go with Miss Laurent. Hopefully I won't. Should I skip in? No, welcome.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Taylor Laurent, and I'm providing a status update on our 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, our long-range plan. So we kicked this off just last month, and I promised that you'd see a lot more of me and our team. Well, here we go. We do have a summary of the information I'm about to talk about included in your agenda packets under tab 9, under item 9, general information. So if you'd like to see that or refer back to it at any point, it is there for you. So starting with our ongoing work, we're really in the kickoff and initiation phase. So there's a lot of things getting started now. The first being our public participation plan, existing conditions in our area profile, kind of how we're using the existing system today, and travel patterns, as well as our origin and destination analyses. So all of those are getting started. You'll hear more about those as they become completed. And the public participation plan, I believe that will be coming back to your agendas in April. So coming soon. When it comes to goals and objectives, those defining characteristics of our 2050 MTP, we're going to be reviewing those over the next few months. Again, those will be coming to you in April. Then from our technical analyses, we've continued our coordination with FDOT on the Central Florida Regional Planning Model, which they're updating and usually do every 5 years, as well as updating our congestion management process. We did have one meeting recently back on February 8th, which was our first 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan technical workshop. That's where we really deep dive any of the topics where we don't necessarily have 20-30 minutes in these advisory committee meetings to get into the topic and get into the details like we'd like to. So that's what that separate forum is for. So as a quick summary for anyone who wasn't able to tune in or watch the recording, we really focused on the background and purpose of the long range plan, what the tech shop participants' roles and responsibilities will be moving forward, and then really took a detailed look at each of the core tasks and activities that we will be performing over the next 2 years, and talking about our methodologies to complete each of those and reach those key milestones. Then looking forward, we do have another technical workshop scheduled for April 11th at 2 p.m. All of your staff have received that calendar invitation, so I expect to see them there. We will be talking about the results of the existing conditions and area profile work, refining those goals and objectives, as well as talking about the drivers of change and future trends that we need to consider as we look towards 2050. And as I've said, we're really in the kickoff and initiation phase. So you're seeing a lot more things come online. That status report will spill onto 2 pages. I won't let it get any longer than that. And you'll be hearing a lot more detailed updates from us in the coming years. So thank you for your time this morning. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Anyone? All right. Oh,
Thank you. Oh,
No, okay,
no,
never
no,
count. Thanks very much.
Thank you. More to come.
Thank you very much, Taylor. And our last presentation is the TSMO master plan with Mr. Hill. Welcome, Mr. Hill.
In mobility. Technology is part of our everyday lives, and mobility is certainly one of those parts. So what we are doing here is we are providing a master plan. We've started this work. It's been a while since I've been in front of you to report on this project. But when we started, we created a steering committee. They're listed here. The agencies with asterisks are those that are not part of this particular plan because they have their own funding sources and their own strategies that they're going to be developing. We've had 6 meetings, pretty much one every quarter since we started the work. And Kimberly Horn is our lead consultant. And this morning I have Shana Eaton with me. Kimberly Horn. So TSMO, again, how can we use alternative modes or alternative strategies to improve mobility, safety, and reliability of our transportation network? Here are some of the TSMO strategies that are typically looked at. I have down at the bottom of this screen here, low tech versus high tech, because while there's technology, for technology's sake, if you will, there are also low tech strategies. And these are simple agreements that occur between agencies and jurisdictions that can facilitate the use of a technology. So we don't want to overlook just having an agreement between the jurisdictions that can facilitate advances in technology. Here's the scope of work. Task 1 is development of vision, goals, and objectives, and that was established or completed through looking at documents that the jurisdictions have already completed, looking at existing conditions, identifying the needs, developing strategies and funding. And spoiler alert, funding, not a whole lot in addition to what we've already been looking at, with the exception of what the federal government is providing in terms of discretionary grants that we can go after to support our projects. The regional architecture is a document that is required for us to use funds for technology. Is pretty much a technical document, and I will touch a little bit more on this a little bit later in the presentation. And then a prioritization matrix that we've developed to look at how we can rank these projects. The vision, again, how can we leverage technology to improve mobility in our region? The goals, they pretty much align or consistent with the last Metropolitan Transportation Plan update. We expect this to continue with the update that we're going to be doing for 2050. Looking at the needs, the way we did this is we did interviews with the stakeholders, looking at what they see as challenges and what they want to overcome, and where they are currently and where they want to be. And we looked at those gaps. Now, a little bit later, I'll touch on the fact that there's already been a lot of investments in technology in the region. How can we leverage that to move forward? So there's the gap, but then what do we already have that we can also use? And so from that, we looked at the the needs and the dimensions that we've broken this down into is infrastructure and systems is just looking at what's in the ITS architecture in terms of the devices, the technology, the communication connections, and how they all fit together. Strategies and operations is looking at what's out there, what needs to be in place, but making sure that it works. Because in the end, all of this has to work. And then that looks at performance measurements. So we want to also have something in place so that our agencies can look at what we've been investing and then evaluate that. I think one of the primary strategies that we've been doing for the last 15 years about is our traffic signaling retiming. That is something that we do annually. We also do an evaluation of how well that is working. So we want to do more of that in this area. And then agency and organization are looking at developing talent so that we can backfill any positions that are open, any vacancies, how we can start to develop a culture at these jurisdictions that look at not just capacity projects as a way to improve mobility, but also looking at strategies that are low cost, but have a higher return. One of the elements of this plan that we wanted to include is using or having outreach and speaking with our citizens. This is a tour that we did of the FDOT Regional Traffic Management Center for our Community Advisory Committee. We wanted their input. After we did the tour, we did have a little session with them. And I think the one thing that they highlighted, and this is consistent with what you see around the country, is when you have events in large venues, how can we use other strategies to allow visitors to access these venues and then to get out of those venues? If you look at our area and the venues that we have, there's not always an opportunity to add capacity. So we have to look at strategies that we can move that traffic in and out safely. And certainly TSMO provides that opportunity because it speaks to travelers and what's occurring on the road, what's occurring in the environment so that they can make better decisions. Strategies that we developed came from the FDOT strategy guide. It aligns with the goals that we've developed, the focus areas that we want to look at, and then what will the strategy do, and then what it will involve to implement this strategy. I mentioned the ITS architecture. I grabbed this. This is one of the pages out of the architecture. But this is basically what it is. It's just a document that details how components fit together. And again, this is pretty much a requirement for spending federal dollars on TSMO projects. In terms of how we are going to prioritize these projects, this is the criteria that we've developed. Again, it's consistent with what we will be doing with our other modal plans. You see investment in economy, and one of the items that I wanted to just pick out is the regional project. It's the third one, and investment in economy. And you see the data sources, the Central Florida NPO Alliance, TSMO rubric. What we did for them is we developed a regional evaluation process, look at projects that are regional, that have an impact in our area. In that one, we were able to align with the SIS system because that enables us to look at state funds for ITS projects. So I just want to call that out because that can help us in terms of funding projects. And then last, we have health and environment. So again, this is the criteria. We have the criteria, the data source, how we're going to evaluate them, and then the points associated with that particular goal. We had a couple changes in the work that we were doing for this project. While we were looking at a lot of technology, the steering committee halfway down the field thought we could probably look at, intersections that we could make improvements to, because that's where a lot of congestion is created. And so what we did, this is one of the nuance in the study, but what we did is we looked at, or we allowed for 20 intersections to be looked at. And we broke them down based on the number of traffic signals that each of the jurisdictions have. So this provides you an idea of the intersections that we're going to be developing strategies for. Now, to pass forward, the second change that we had that extended the work we're doing, and again, this is what I mentioned earlier about leveraging existing investments. We did another interview with our stakeholders to look at, okay, do we have everything correct? What else can we look at? What else can we leverage? Regional strategies, again, cybersecurity is a big thing when you're talking about technology. And that's something that we have to address across the region. And then further considerations, we want this to merge in well with our active transportation plan, certainly complement a Central Florida Vision Zero effort. And then the last thing is artificial intelligence. That is not emerging, it exists. And is there an opportunity for us to do anything with that? Or how will we address it as it comes? Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation.
All right, are there any questions? Mr. Smith?
For the intersection analysis, can you expand upon how those were determined and the criteria?
So we, in the interview process with the stakeholders, when we had the discussion about looking at intersections, we were limited in terms of resources that we had to do this. So just like when we do our traffic signal retiming, we asked them to identify those intersections and the strategies that they wanted us to recommend. So it was pretty straightforward. Again, had we had that discussion with them earlier in the project, we probably could have expanded and had more. But because we had already started down the path, it was, okay, well, we can take a look at this, but we can't go too far forward. I mean, we can't go too far into this. As this evolves into the future, we'll start to look at more intersections. And it'll probably complement our regional traffic signal timing work that we're doing.
Mayor?
Yeah, and looking at that map of those intersections, when will we have access to some of the results? In other words, I can see one is in Winter Springs, just happens to be in Seminole County, one of those four. When that data is accumulated, when will that be available?
Okay, in terms of the results from the implementation of the strategy or the actual strategy? Oh, okay. Next month, you'll have the strategy that we're going to be using. In terms of the results of implementation, that may take a year or two because we have to collect some data. We have to look at changes around the intersection because all that factors into the impacts that the strategy will have. And that, again, not to harp too much on our traffic signal retiming work, but that is one of the things we've noted is there's been land use changes throughout Central Florida. There's been changes in terms of movement of traffic, and that impacts the effect that the traffic signal retiming has. So again, your second question, it may take a year or two for us to collect the data to see what the impacts are.
Great, anyone else?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, Mayor.
I'll be a little bit more specific. In Longwood, the intersection of 434 and Ronald Reagan, that's been talked about and discussed for the widening of that with turning lanes to help alleviate the traffic with the train crossing both roads.
Yeah.
When I don't see the dot up there on Seminole County for that intersection. What's happening with that? Do we have a timeline on that?
I can't respond to your question. I can find out. I thought Alex would have that answer for you.
Sorry, I missed the front end of the question, but I believe you're referring to Ronald Reagan at 434.
At 434, that intersection, they're talking about putting in 434 turning lanes to help alleviate some of the traffic there.
Correct. Yeah, the county did the design a few years ago. I believe the last year of right-of-way acquisition was in last year. Currently, construction's not funded, but we are going in the current work program and the current tentative work program. But we are going through an intake cycle that is an existing state highway system and local priority. So we're hoping to work with Seminole County, who's the project, will be the implementing agency.
Correct.
To find funds for that project, hopefully in the next 4 to 5 years.
2 to
So-
5 years?
4 to 5 years.
4 to 5
Currently, and
years.
nothing is currently funded in the tentative work program
right.
from fiscal year 24 to 29. But we're looking to find opportunities to fund from that construction. I think it's like $6 to $8 million is the current construction estimate for the turning lane improvements. A lot of the right of way was the holdup. You know, there was probably about 4 or 5 years of right of way acquisition to get the necessary takes on each of those kind of corners, as you're familiar with.
Yes.
But currently nothing's funded, but it is on the radar.
It's on the
Something-
radar. Okay.
And something that my team is looking to fund hopefully in the next 5th year.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Preston.
Sharing that, but the question comes to mind in regards to Lee Road, I-4, turn coming into Eatonville. Of course, right now, there's no immediate access to Eatonville right off of I-4, so that is one of the conduits into Eatonville there. And it's heavily traffic working on Wymore, Lee Road, that fits into some planning, or has that been discussed at some point with that one? But I think that's that one needs some serious attention because of the egress and egress there.
Yeah, I have to take a closer look at that particular roadway in the plan. Because as you noted, it's probably not gonna be a capacity solution. And so I'll have to just take another look at that and I can follow up with you.
Yeah, there's some opportunities for the town with a potential museum coming from the state there, and we're gonna need to really make sure our access points coming in really meets the criteria for that. But thank you.
Sure. Right. Anyone else? All right, thanks so much. Thank you for your time, Ms. Hill. All right, we're concluding our day a little bit here, but we have some general information under tab 4, if you'll take a look at that. Upcoming meetings, our Metro Plan Orlando Board meeting is here next week, Wednesday, March 13th at 9 a.m. And our next MAC meeting is May 2nd at 9:30 a.m. At this time, do any committee members want to make any final comments? We have, just to let everybody know here, we have the Tri-County League of Cities March meeting on the 21st, 4 to 5:30 at the City of Orlando chambers, I think, about homelessness. So we'd like to have you if you're available. Also, do we have any members of the public wish to comment? Please use the raise hand function and you will be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll unmute your mic after you are recognized. Please state your name, address, and for the record, and limit your comment to 2 minutes, Celeste. Do we have anyone virtually?
Mr. Chairman, we have no hands raised online.
Great. Do we have any members of the public attending here?
I have not received any.
And any written or phone comments?
Nope. Although while I have you, I do want to make a quick note. We prepared a packet of kids' books for each of you at the front desk that you can take on your way out. There's 25 each, so please feel free to put it, wherever you feel is best in your community. And we'll still also outreach to your local Vision Zero consultants to let them know also, but you can take those today.
Great. Okay. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.